Today's video is the latest in an ongoing series of people who either record themselves or are recorded and post the footage on the internet, but they're being absolutely ghastly. So ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to People Being Awful Part 14. This first clip I've had to mute, and there are a few like that, to get around copyright, but we'll kick off with a gentleman experimenting with ladies' clothing. I have questions. The first of which is, how fucking tall is that guy? His head's nearly on the ceiling. He must be pushing 7 feet tall. That's not a particularly feminine look. If I think of all my circle of friends, there's only one woman I know who will look up to talk to. Next up is, why does it look like his living room hasn't been redecorated since the 1970s? His house appears to be part of a working museum dedicated to life during the Cold War. Next up, where did he get that dress from? Because I have a horrible feeling he's got it off his dead mother like Norman Bates in Psycho. And how uneasy does he look on those heels? He looks about as feminine as Brian Blessed in drag. So now we'll see another man wearing women's clothing who's got the hang of it. To be fair, he can move in those heels. I am intrigued by his styling because to me, it looks like the look he's going for is one of the women on the cover of a VHS cassette, those soft porn films you could rent from Blockbuster in the 1990s. And I'm also guessing that before he finished high school, his sister was wondering where her clothes were going. Yet this is People Being Awful. What's so awful about that man? To me, it's, what impact does it have on other people? Imagine going out for an evening and seeing that, because I don't think there are many people sitting at home going, darling, let's go up the club. I hear they have a particularly agile transvestite. So let's move on to something different.
Might be a hot take, but I'm convinced that kids as young as 5 years old show signs of being queer. I work with kindergartners, and you see a lot of interesting things, like little boys who want to go play with dolls, or little girls who want to go play with cars. And it's something that I think should be encouraged, because who cares if you're a little boy and you play with dolls? Who cares if you're a little boy and your favorite color is pink? I work with a boy who doesn't care if you call him a boy or a girl. His name is Ethan, and he says it doesn't matter to him because he's still Ethan regardless, and he likes to be called a boy and a girl. So genuinely, I'm surprised when parents are surprised at their kid being queer. You're going to sit here and tell me that the child that you had that is now 18, that since they were 5 has been asking you to call them a boy and a girl, turns out to be queer, turns out to be non-binary. That's going to surprise you. I don't mention anything like this to the kids or to their parents. It's just something that I've observed, but I genuinely am so fascinated by it.
And the award for lazy stereotype of the month goes to, seriously? If a boy picks up a doll or if a girl plays with a toy car, that means that they're queer? What does queer even mean anymore? It used to be a derogatory slur for gay men, whereas now, someone who says they're queer usually is devoid of all personality and desperate for attention. And I don't think anyone really knows who they are, their sexuality I mean, until they go through puberty. And it's no surprise whatsoever that she works in education around very young, very impressionable children. And I'm calling bullshit that she's not finding ways to push her agenda. And her comment about the way a 5-year-old acts being non-binary at 18. Well, we don't know that yet, because someone who's 18 today, they were 5 13 years ago, and 13 years ago, non-binary wasn't a thing. Technically, it still isn't, and if it was, those were the kids who were locked in the attic. Anyway, moving on.
I went viral for letting 23 guys run a train on me with my friend Bonnie. Now, that video is actually out now, so if you want to check that out, you know where to go. But if you want to be a part of the next one, I'm actually doing 100 guys in one day. So head on over to my Twitter to find out how to apply.
It's important to have an ambition, and I'm sure her parents are extremely proud of her. I can't imagine going on a date with that woman. So how many men have you been with? Oh, 23, 24? That was just yesterday, and now she's planning to fuck 100 blokes on video in a day. How many breaks is she going to get? Stood there with a cigarette. Union rules. And I imagine at the end of that, her nether regions are going to look like a gas explosion at a kebab shop. But the thing I'm really curious about is how is it going to work? 100 blokes turning up to fuck the same woman. Will they take a ticket? Will it be like going to a restaurant where they give that thing that vibrates when your table's ready? Of course not. You heard her accent. She's British. They'll queue.
Good morning, my precious darling. I love you.
Is that man auditioning to play the Annabelle doll in whatever the next film is in the Conjuring film franchise? A franchise much like The Fast and the Furious, which should have been killed off fucking years ago. Anyway, that's a short segue because The Conjuring is a film series. And if you think about films and entertainment, let's take a trip to Disneyland.
I've been dying to ride Snow White's Enchanted Wish at Disneyland, but you weren't sure if you'd fit. Hey everyone, we're plus-size park hoppers, rearranged in sizes from 2X to 5X. Make sure you like this video and follow us for our plus-size Disney tips and tricks. Make sure you watch this video to the end for a helpful tip on the turnstiles at Disneyland. Snow White's Enchanted Wish is a slow-moving dark ride taking you through the story of Snow White. This ride has such a classic feel and really captures the essence of Disney. One thing to note about the queue for this ride is that it's very narrow, which means that it's not wheelchair accessible, unfortunately. But we'll go into more detail on that later. There is a very tight turnstile to get into this ride, but later on in the video, we'll show you how to avoid it. The ride vehicle is a minecart with 2 rows of bench seating. The safety mechanism for this ride is a lap bar, and none of us had any problems with this. It did not need to get to a certain position to lock. There is a step up to get into the vehicle, and the opening is quite narrow. If you're plus size, we highly recommend sitting in your own row. We tried riding 2 in a row and regretted it immediately. If you are traveling in a wheelchair or have trouble getting into narrow spaces, there is an accessible vehicle. The side opens on the accessible vehicle, which makes getting in or transferring easier. If you are in a wheelchair or have a difficult time getting through narrow turnstiles, there is a solution. All you have to do is go to the exit and speak to the cast member. They will then scan your ticket and give you a return time. So instead of standing in line, you're basically waiting in a virtual queue. When it's time for you to return to the ride, you will get a notification on your phone. Then just go back to the exit of the ride and you'll be able to enter there. We thought this ride was super cute and made you feel like you were really in the movie.
Yes, the advice I'd give to those ladies is when you're at Disneyland, don't go near the Dumbo ride because people there will assume you are additional elephants. And why are we calling it plus size? Why not morbidly obese? Because that's what they are. People whose lives will be shortened because of their excess weight. Because here's a quick heads up. If you need to be let onto a ride through the fucking wheelchair entrance, you have a problem. And I'm far from thin. Yet I've never been to a theme park and thought I need to carry out a reconnaissance mission to see if I can get on the rides. I know I'll fit. Not only will I fit, I'll fit in one fucking seat. And now I feel sorry for people at Disney World or Disneyland because now all the tubbies know they can get on the Snow White ride. Anyway, that was Disney. Now let's do DC. Catwoman. The Batman films would have been very different if Catwoman looked like that. To begin with, the Batmobile would have to have been a convertible so they could hoist her in. And the grappling hook, that couldn't have a thin line. That would need the sort of steel rope they use to tether cargo ships to the docks. So that's a person dressed as an animal. Let's stick with that. Furry's getting married. For fuck's sake. I guess it's nice that they've both found someone just as mad as they are. Although I can't imagine being the parent to the bride or groom, to know you've utterly failed to raise your offspring in a normal and sane manner. If I had a child, which I don't, but if I had a child and they were furry, I'd be thinking, do I need to take them to the vets to get their jabs? In fact, no, I'd take them to the vets and say, excuse me, vet, this one is a bit of a problem. Can you put it down, please? So we've got one clip left, and this is someone who is truly being awful. Someone openly, on camera, committing multiple racially motivated assaults.
All black people get respect from me. Fuck these white people. Did you ask her to keep it? I'm outside, just to let you know. Beat the dog snatcher. I'm fucking bitch.
Fucking bitch?
I'm not rooting for no white person. I'm not What you want to do? What you want to do? Come outside.
Earlier, I mentioned lazy stereotypes, but I'll use one here. If the races were reversed, if it was a white guy going out of his way to smash into black people, it would be all over the news and the man would be in prison. But no, we see the guy there, walking confidently, trying to balance the chip he's got on each fucking shoulder, doubtless going on about reparations, going out of his way to barge into people because they're not the same colour as him. I guarantee that man blames everything that's gone wrong in his life on white people, because that way he doesn't have to face up to the fact that he's probably a bit of a fucking halfwit with an attitude problem. Anyway, that's the end of this video. If you enjoyed it, please do like and subscribe if you haven't already, and as ever, thanks for watching. Questions. Firstly, how tall is that guy? He looks to be around 7 feet high. Bollocks. Sure what the look is he's going for. To me, he appears to be trying to look like one of the women on the cover of a softcore porn film. The type you could rate... fucking bollocks. The type you could rent from Blockbuster in the 1990s. And yes, I did. I'm fucking surprised that she works in education around young, impressionable children who are probably more intelligent than she is. Because near the Dumbo ride if you're at Disneyland or Disney World, because you look like a herd of fucking elephants. They are the type of people that I imagine, when they turn up en masse at a Chinese all-you-can-eat buffet, the owner is just thinking, fuck it, I'm not making any profit tonight. Get the waitresses back on the game. But if I had a child and it grew up to be a furry, I'd be taking it off to the forests, just hoping there was a hunter in the area. Not that that happens very much in the UK, I'd have to go stateside. Work. She's going to shag 100 different blokes. Imagine getting the ticket that says you're 99 or 100. If it were me, and it wouldn't be, I'd turn up looking like I work for the bomb disposal unit. I'm only assuming that that gentleman...